Hello everyone, today's another dumpster diving story, so let's get started. Jack Mercer had hauled a lot of strange things in Georgia, but nothing ever made his winch sing like that crate did. It sat behind a dead warehouse like a coffin built from cheap OSB, no logos, no labels, just one ugly red stencil that said, Bruce, Lot 4. Jack stared at it from the cab of his heavy wrecker, Old Bertha, and felt that rare little itch in his gut. Not fear, not greed, just the sense that something was off in a way you don't joke about. Jack was 55 and pure old school, grease under the nails, classic movies on the radio when the signal held, pride in doing the job right even when nobody was watching. He didn't chase treasure stories, he chased invoices. A bank had hired him to clear a foreclosed property, an old storage site that used to belong to some aviation prop outfit that folded back in the mid-90s. Most of it was exactly what Jack expected: rusted frames, cracked fiberglass, half-collapsed containers that smell like wet cardboard, and old paint. The kind of junk that eats your tires and your patience. Then he found the crate. It was too big to be a tool chest and too clean to be a landfill. The wood was rough, but the screws were tight like somebody wanted it to survive a move. Jack tried rocking it with his boot, nothing. He hooked the winch line and hit the control. Old Bertha squatted hard, her cable pulling tight as a guitar string. For a second, Jack thought he'd snapped something, but the crate finally slid, inch by stubborn inch, leaving a fresh scrape across the concrete. Whatever was inside wasn't lined machinery, it was dead weight, the kind you only see when it's a motor block or something built to feel like one. He got it up on the flatbed, chained it down, and drove home with that crate riding behind him like it had a destination of its own. All the way through traffic, Jack kept catching the stencil in his mirror. Bruce, 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 like the thing was trying to introduce itself. He told himself it was probably an old engine mock-up, maybe a prop plane part, maybe a busted lathe. Something he could strip and scrap and forget. That was the plan. In his driveway, with the sun dropping and the cicadas starting up, Jack grabbed a pry bar and a drill. He didn't make a production of it, he didn't call anybody. He just wanted to know what he was dealing with before he tore it down. The first panel popped loose with a loud crack and a breeze of stale air rolled out. Hot, dusty, faintly chemical, like an old theater storage room that never fully aired out. He pulled again, the OSB bowing, screws squealing as they let go. And then the crate gave up its secret. A massive head, gray, rubbery, scared with fake blood that had dried brown, slumped forward and thumped onto the driveway like a fallen statue. It had teeth the size of Jack's fingers. It had a dead glass eye. It had metal hinges, an old ring tucked under the jawline like veins. Jack froze so hard his shoulders ached, because it wasn't just a shark. It was that shark, the one from a movie every kind in America knew, whether they admitted it or not. Jack didn't say a word for a long moment. He just stood there staring while his brain tried to reject what his eyes were holding. He'd seen Jaws a dozen times. He'd also seen enough props in his work to know when something was cheap. This wasn't cheap. This was built like a machine that had a job once, built to scare people for real, on camera, back when Hollywood still used steel and sweat. He leaned in and found the tech screwed to a bracket inside the neck cavity. Faded ink, old inventory handwriting, and one name that made his stomach tighten again: Bruce. The nickname for a mechanical shark, the piece of movie history people argued online about, the one that was lost and gone and probably rotted out somewhere. Jack backed up, wiped his palms on his jeans, and laughed once, short and sharp, like his body didn't know what else to do. Then he did what every working man does when something unbelievable happens. He snapped a photo, just one. No posted it in tow truck group with a dumb caption to keep it light. Pull this fish out of a bank cleanup, needs a dentist. By the time Jack set his phone down, the post was already exploding with comments, guys tagging friends, people asking where, what lot, what warehouse, what county. Jack felt the mood shift right there in his driveway. Not on the screen, inside his chest, because suddenly this wasn't a funny story for the boys. It was a spotlight. And Jack had a feeling he'd just told the whole world exactly where to look. By sunrise, Jack's fish photo had escaped the tow truck group and landed in places he'd never heard of. Movie fan pages, prop forums, collectors arguing in the comments like they were in courtroom. People weren't laughing anymore, they were naming numbers, 6 figures. More, Jack stood in his kitchen with a cup of coffee, going cold, scrolling with one thumb, feeling that strange mix of pride and dread you get when you realize your life just got interesting in a way you didn't ask for. He went out to the driveway and looked at the crate again. That shark had sat half in, half out, like it was trying to crawl back into the dark. Up close, Jack could see how old it was, cracks in the rubber skin, dry, fake blood, bolts and brackets built by hands that knew what they were doing. It wasn't pretty, it was important, and important things had a way of attracting people who thought important meant mine. The first pressure didn't come as threats or sirens, it came as a clean black SUV that rolled up slow, like it belonged there. A man stepped out in a pressed shirt and boots that didn't know dirt. He smiled like he was meeting a client, not a record driver in a gravel driveway. "Mr. Mercer?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "I'm here about the item you posted." Jack didn't invite him in. He didn't need to. The man kept his voice calm and friendly while his words did the squeezing. He said the shark head was studio property, never officially cleared, never legally released, and Jack had removed it from the site that had protected assets. Then he offered the kind of deal that sounds generous until you taste the insult. If Jack handed it over quietly, the studio would make this easy and nobody would waste time with accusations that could mess with permits, contracts, licenses. Jack stared at him and felt his temper rise slow. He'd been called a lot of things in his life, but he wasn't a thief. He told the man on one simple truth. The bank paid him to clear everything on that lot. If the studio wanted something, they should have been there before the bank's lock went on the gate. The man's smile didn't break, but it got tighter. "Just think about it," he said, and walked back to the SUV like he expected Jack to come to his senses. As the SUV pulled away, Jack realized what scared him most. The man hadn't asked if it was real. He hadn't needed proof. He'd come because he already knew. That meant Jack's pause didn't just bring fans, it brought people whose job was to make the problems disappear without leaving fingerprints. Jack sat in old Bertha cab for a long minute, hands on the wheel, and did what working men do when the work tries to play them. He went back to the one thing that never lied, his paperwork. The work order from the bank wasn't fancy, but it was blunt. Clear the site, hold everything, dispose. Jack read it twice, then took a photo of it and saved it like it was a family picture. He wasn't looking for a fight, he was making sure nobody could pretend he'd freelanced a heist. Then he made one smart move, then turned the pressure around without turning the story into a circus. He didn't call a lawyer and he didn't beg the studio for mercy. He called a museum, one of the big film history places that actually wanted the artifacts preserved, not buried. He spoke plain. "I've got something you've been hunting for decades. I'm not trying to get cute. I'm trying to keep it safe and keep my name clean. Tell me what you'd do if it was in your driveway." The answer came fast and it was simple. Don't hand it to a private fixer. Don't meet anyone in a parking lot. Keep it in the light. So Jack did what felt wrong to a private man, but right to a man protecting himself. He let the story go public on his terms. Not the address, not the county, not a map. Just the fact that the museum team was aware and the shark head was being handled as a historical piece, not trash. The tone online shifted instantly. The same people who were counting money started talking about history, preservation, accountability, and when the studio's man realized he couldn't snatch it quietly anymore without looking like the villain of his own movie, the pressure softened. Not because he suddenly grew a conscience, because the spotlight got too bright. A few weeks later, Jack stood in a clean, quiet room while museum folks inspected the head the way mechanics inspect the engine, respectful, focused, almost tender. They didn't treat him like a crook. They treated him like the guy who dragged a piece of American film out of a forgotten hole and didn't ruin it. When they made their offer, it wasn't a fantasy number, but it was real money, enough to change a life without turning it into a joke. Jack signed, shook hands, and watched the shark head get loaded into a climate-controlled truck like it was royalty. The check didn't turn Jack into a new man, it just let him be the man he'd always been without the constant grin in his throat. He brought the heavy wrecker he'd dreamed about for 20 years, a brand new Peterbilt with the muscle to pull anything Georgia could throw at him. He painted it in all Bertha's colors because loyalty matters to guys like Jack. He paid off every nagging bill that had been sitting around like a bad smell. He fixed up his shop, upgraded his tools, and for the first time in a long time, he took a Sunday off without guilt chewing on him. And the best part wasn't even the money, it was the quiet victory of knowing he didn't get played. The studio man drove by once, slow, looking like he expected to see regret. Jack was out front, wiping his hands on a rag, watching his new truck shine in the sun. He gave the man a small wave, the kind that says, "I'm not your enemy, but I'm not your fool either." Inside Jack's new cab, hanging from the mirror, was a tiny shark keychain the museum shop sent him as a thank you. Jack laughed every time he saw it because sometimes the heaviest crate isn't just junk. Sometimes it's your ticket to a better life if you're stubborn enough to hold on to it in the right way. That's the end of the story. Please share in the comments what do you think about the story, what do you think about the find. Have you ever find anything like it, or what's your interesting finds you ever happen to see on the streets or somewhere, sort of places like that? And if you like the video, please give me the thumbs up and subscribe.